Welcome to Roadmap to 1 Million. My name is Stacey Zeal, and if you're looking to make more money, gain your time back, and rapidly grow your visibility so that you can impact way more people with your brilliance, you're in the right place. This podcast is your one-stop shop for turning your online business dreams into a reality. My main goal is to give women entrepreneurs just like you the marketing strategies, guidance, and expert insights you need to hit that $1 million milestone and beyond. Whether you're a coach, a consultant, or an online brand that wants to make a big impact, Roadmap to 1 Million gives you the actionable strategies and inspiration you need so that you can implement right away, no fluff, no fuss. So CEO, are you ready to buckle up and accelerate your growth? Be sure to follow the show and let's dive in. Get ready to uncover your roadmap to 1 million. Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. Are you doing all the things but hit a revenue ceiling? You're building an audience, you're creating content and making sales, but you feel like something is holding you back from your next milestone. If that sounds like you, it's time to take our What's Your Missing Marketing Link quiz, your go-to tool to identify what's missing from your marketing strategy that might be holding back your business growth. Whether it's fixing your funnel or diversifying your efforts, this quiz will pinpoint those marketing missteps and guide you to success. Take the quiz today and uncover the missing link in your path to 7 figures and beyond. So head over to staceyzeal.co/quiz because success begins with identifying and fixing those mistakes. So don't miss out. Your business deserves to have the impact you desire. Visit staceyzeal.co/quiz. That's STACYZEAL.co/quiz to get a detailed report and the resources you need to help you grow. All right, let's jump back into the episode. All right, y'all. We are back with another episode of Roadmap to 1 Million. I am your host, and I am excited for you to be here. And so if you are new to the show, welcome, welcome. This is a podcast that is all about helping you as a business owner to grow your business via marketing and different other kind of marketing strategies, different business tactics. And so if you're new here, welcome. Please make sure you're following the show so that you get our episodes, our new episodes that we come out with every week. We also have a ton of content that you can go back through and binge if you are so inclined. And if you are seasoned here, if you have been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you following the show and tuning in every week and sharing it with people and leaving reviews and all the things. So if you want to help me out, I would appreciate you being able to share this on social. Make sure you tag me in it so that I can reshare it for you. But I would love for you to share this show out to people to make sure that more people can get all this knowledge, because this is really the space where I really like to go deep. And I like to bring in experts like today's expert that we have today. We are going to be talking about brand strategy, y'all. And y'all know I love to talk strategy. And me and Maggie had a fantastic conversation, about, we think that it would just be such a great kind of topic for people to learn about, because that's her zone of genius. That's all she does. And so I'm going to go ahead and welcome Maggie to the show and let us tell us a little bit more about you, your background, all the things.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, it is an honor to be with you. And thank you also, those of you who don't know, Stacey is the reason that we had the conversation that Stacey just mentioned is because I hired Stacey to help me with something, and she was amazing. So if you are ever in need of the things that she offers, like, do not hesitate. And I'm not saying that I'm not being paid to say that. That is my honest assessment. I am so appreciative of your skill set as well. I am Maggie. I own Be Understood Branding. I am a brand strategist. I create the verbal identities, which I'm sure we'll like figure out what that is through this conversation, so that the amazing things that particularly women founders do gets seen and appreciated.
Yeah, I love that because it's a really interesting thing, right? Like when I think about marketing in general, there are so many different pieces of marketing. And I love that, today we can really go in deep on branding, because I think it definitely is something that people either are so obsessed about it that they don't start, or they don't think about it. And then they get to a place and they're wondering, like, why is the audience that I'm attracting not aligned with the offers that I have or the brand that I have, like, finding that mismatch. So I'm really excited to talk about that. But before we dive into that, I would love to talk a little bit about what is brand strategy? So tell me a little bit about, like, in your words and how you communicate it to people, like, what is brand strategy and why is it important for us who are, people who are listening to the shows? We are next level CEOs. So we're not like, just getting starting out in business. But so we have an offer, we have something that's working, we have an audience, and we're really trying to take it to the next level. So why is it important? Like, what is brand strategy and why is it really important for us to pay attention to?
Picture a closet that's full of a bunch of clothes. It's not organized. Things are stuffed in there. There's pants next to shirts, next to jackets. There's bad lighting. You can't see what's in there. That is what companies and oftentimes marketing looks like before a brand strategy. What a brand strategy does is it articulates the gut level essence of a company, a product, a service, an idea, because that's what's required to turn heads. All a brand strategy is what science knows about how human attention works applied to the thing that people sell. So after a brand strategy, the closet is going to look pristine, crisp, clear, attractive. People are going to like die. They're looking at a picture and they're just like dying to get in there and touch what's in the closet. So that's what I mean. That's kind of like how I describe what a brand strategy does. What a brand strategy is it's the thing that your sales team, your PR team, your marketer needs in order to do their job well for you. It's 6 things asked and answered well: your how, your why, your personality, the human needs your work addresses, and what the impact of those things being addressed is, your brand positioning, which is like the flag that you plant. Like, Stacey, you are a marketing consultant. You are not the only person doing what you do. So you're going to plant a flag that says, here is where I play in my industry, so people know what you are and what you're about, so they can flock to you. And then unique advantages. So differentiated advantages or uniquenesses is the other thing that you figure out in a brand strategy.
Yeah, that's such a great analogy, like the closet. And it made me think about my closet because I am someone who needs a very organized closet. Like, all of my pants are here, and then I have them like shorts, skirts, leggings, jeans, long dress pants, and my shirts. I have bodysuits and crop tops. And it's organized by color. And it isn't because I'm a super organized person. It's more so because when I walk into my closet, I want to make sure that, one, I know where everything is. I know where all, I can confine the aesthetic that I'm going for that day. I have a capsule wardrobe, so that it helps me, like, when I'm getting dressed in the morning, so that way I know exactly what to put on every morning. I'm not sitting there like, where is everything, or what should I wear, right? And so I think about that when you talked about brand strategy and talking about how your team needs it to be successful, because it really is important for your sales team, your marketing team, your PR team, anybody who has a hand in your marketing, to really understand your brand and understand the strategy behind it, right? Because a lot of times we want to just tell people these are our brand colors and these are our fonts, but are we really digging into the uniqueness, like you mentioned? Are we digging into our personality, like words that we use versus things that we don't use? And so all of that stuff, I think, is just so, so important for all of us to understand. And then the other thing you said is that it really kind of digs into how people work, right? Like, it really kind of like helps people to flock towards and find a brand that they resonate with. So could you dig into that a little bit more about how branding really kind of like impacts human behavior or the psychology behind it? Because I'm always fascinated by the psychology behind marketing. That's like one of the topics that I just love learning about. So could you dig into that a little bit more?
I want you to think of one of your girlfriend who knows who she is and what she's about.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's you. Maybe you don't have friends like that, but every woman that I've ever met has friends like that. She knows who she is and what she's about. She is so clear. And that is what drew you to her. That is what keeps you dying to know what's going on in her life and loving laughing with her and the stories that she tells. That is how a great brand works as well. When you are crystal clear about who you are and what you're about, people are drawn to you. And that's it. I mean, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't have a background in human brains, but how human brains were built is that we're just naturally wired to, we want to know, are you for me?
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to humans and when it comes to brands, the more quickly you can answer that question for someone and they can identify that the category that you're in is one that they are drawn to, the more quickly they will come to love you or want to be connected to you or want to know more about you. So a brand strategy, the way the science behind it is you're trying to create an identity, a feeling that is like that friend that you have that knows who she is and what she's about.
Yeah, that's a perfect example because, like, I think about people who I know that fit that. I think about, myself. And it's really like, I think, helping people to understand how they fit into your world. Because sometimes, I come across brands and like, I know that, people use Apple as a, branding example all the time. But when I think about, and I dissect Apple's brand a little bit, right, it really does align with me and my personality and the way that I like things. Like I like things to be sleek and clean lines. I like the grays and the blacks and the, those kind of colors. I like the, way that Apple presents their new things, right? It's not, they don't have a new phone coming out every 2 months, right? Like it really is like, you grab your phone, you ride it out, you wait until they come out with something new. They take the time to update it and improve this and improve that, right? And give you a better device. But it's more so about them taking their time than them putting out something really quick and fast, right? Or whereas like, a Fashion Nova kind of brand, it's quick, it's fast. There isn't a whole lot of care that's put into the clothes. Like if you get something that has a hole in it or something that rips easily, it's Fashion Nova, right? It was $5. I'm really, really not like, going to be stressed over that, right? But if I get my iPhone and there's a hole in it, it's a problem. I need to talk to Tim right now about why it's not operating right when I just got it out of the packaging, or even like, after a couple of years, like I'm still have an old iPhone. And if that thing stops to work, I'm like, okay, Tim, what's going on here? My iPhone is supposed to be reliable and it's supposed to last me a long time. And so, there are so many kind of brands out there that have nailed it, right? That have nailed brand and being able to communicate that to people. And so I think about like our listeners are at a place in their business where, I mentioned earlier, like, they have something that works, right? So they have an audience, they have a following, they have people who like, love what they do, but it might also be because they have a direct touch point with that person. As we get bigger, right? Like as we're getting, we're expanding our audiences, we're getting bigger, we're losing those personal touches that we may have with people. So people are not necessarily like fans of Stacy, or I don't want people to be fans of Stacy. I want people to be fans of Stacy Zealenko or the brand. So what are some of those mistakes and like, that our listeners may be making on that way from, being a brand that's so easily accessible and people just love your personality because they can feel it, to being an actual, like the brand being removed from themselves and standing on their own?
I love this question so much. For those of you who are listening and not watching, I just like sat up a little taller in my chair. None of your listeners are Walmart, and thank goodness they're not Walmart. However, some of them may be on their way to being Walmart, or, okay, maybe that wasn't the greatest example. I'm trying to get across, like, I'm trying to show that I agree with you about like where people are at. Like, we're not Starbucks, we're not Apple, but we're not like, a DBA anymore. We are an LLC or a C Corp or something like that. Yeah. Okay. The most important thing right now for brands in that position to do is to embed being human in their brand strategy. Mm-hmm. Because it is that humanness, that connection to people, that is a small and growing business's superpower. So if you are not if you haven't figured how to act human as your brand, in how you talk about what you do, how you greet people who are coming into your world, how you pull out a chair for someone and get them a glass of water. If you haven't figured those things out as a brand, you are flying your invisible plane without your lasso of truth. You left your Thor hammer at home. You are operating without your superpower. That moment is where people come to me. They have had success. They have happy clients. Now they're growing. They want to maintain their superpower, and a brand strategy is exactly how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Did I explain it okay?
Yes, you did. It makes sense because it's like, we want to maintain this humanness and this connection. And because that's what people love us for, right? That's why people love small businesses. It's because, like, I may be able to walk into a store and the owner is there, or I may be able to, or I may resonate with that person's story because they're from the same place I'm from, or whatever it is, right? But then as we get bigger, we have more people that come into our world. We have to try to figure out how we give all of those people the same experience and how they all get, that same humanness and that same connection that they have with us. But we have to be able to do it at capacity, right? Like, and I think that, like you were saying, the brand strategy is what helps you with that, right? Like, I may not be having, all of these one-on-one conversations that I have with my audience, when I go from having an audience of 100 to having an audience of 100,000, but I still have to make sure that everybody that comes in comes in and is in within my marketing ecosystem still is able to get that essence, like you were saying, that gut level essence of your brand. And so, it's not necessarily about becoming a Walmart or becoming, one of these, like, brands and, Starbucks and Target, where who knows who the CEO is, right? Like, because we, as a brand, people want it, like, as small businesses, people still want to have that connection to the CEO. And that's why, I would love to hear your perspective on maintaining or creating that personal brand that aligns with your business brand. Because I see, a lot of people in the space now where they are either shifting from having a personal brand to having a business brand, or they've built up their business and, everything is about the business, or particularly I can think about like agencies and stuff like that, right? Like, the agency, like what you've kind of like built is around the agency's brand, but now people want to have that connection to the CEO. We want to know who that person is. And so how do you help, how do you work when you work with clients? Like, what do you tell them about having a personal brand?
Yeah.
Business brand? Like, are they separate? Do they have different strategies? Are they aligned? Like, what's your perspective?
It's a little bit brand personality and it's a little bit brand values. Let me give you some examples. What is she talking about? Every brand is different, just like every human being is different. I have one brand who part of their personality, the way we wrote it out was, we are upbeat, whenever appropriate, we share the bright side of a situation. Mm-hmm. So immediately you can hear, right, that brand is going to be positive, but also respectful. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's, it's not a super cheery, upbeat all the time, everything positive. It's not a fake brand. It's when appropriate, we share the bright side. Mm-hmm. That one sentence bakes humanity and bakes acting human into the brand. Mm-hmm. So that's an example of how defining your brand personality gives you always that human connection, no matter how big your company is. Let me give you a values example. One company, another company, one of their values is trustworthiness. They vet their clients, they vet their staff, they built trustworthiness into every part of their business because that was one of the values that we identified. So that brand, you can already feel like, oh, that's a brand that, like, when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it and they're going to do it right and well. And if they don't, they're going to be honest about it and forthright. So they've built that humanness, that particular humanness, into their brand. Two extremely different brands. One is an online help for older people, and one is a skincare company. Hi, buddy. That's Django. Hey, buddy. So hopefully that give uh, hopefully giving examples is helpful.
Yeah, it was helpful because I
Yeah.
think like, okay, so like we're taking, that brand that's mentioned, that trustworthiness is a part of their brand values, right? And we see how they are vetting their clients and they are, doing all these things internally to make sure that
Yeah.
they showcase that brand of that value of trustworthiness. And then
Yeah.
as CEO, right? Like maybe you are also kind of like, the brand that you're putting out there as yourself also, exudes trustworthiness, right? Like, and
Yeah.
transparency, if you're creating content, right? Like if you're blogging, you have your own like personal blog or something like that for like with a personal brand,
Yeah.
can see that you are also trusted, right? In the sense that like you're giving me context to things. You're maybe giving me stats and facts and figures, and you're quoting trustworthy
Yeah.
chat GPT, right? Like, like you
Yeah.
like, taking the time to do the due diligence of giving people a really, really good quality piece of content that they can rely on that exudes that trustworthiness. And so
Yeah.
have your personal brand and your business brand both exuding that trustworthiness, people can make that connection that, oh yeah, like that brand's value also is trustworthiness, but I can also see that the person who's leading the ship is also embedded in that trustworthiness.
I feel like there's a part of your question that I didn't answer, which is like the personal brand becoming the larger corporate brand. And the reality is that most brands develop from the founder's personal personality or their vision, that particular person or C-suite couple of people's vision of the brand's personality. So it always starts small. Here's the tricky business, Stacey. You cannot lie the inside has to match the outside. And if you say something about your brand that ends up not being true, the truth will always out. Think about every single brand that you've seen critiqued on TikTok in the last 6 to 8 months. The reason why people are upset with those brands is because that brand created rising expectations by saying they were something, and then people feel relatively deprived because they were not. So, yes, be aspirational, but you have to tell the truth. I ask big questions in a brand strategy process, and the instinct is to answer with a big answer. That's normal. But what we have to do is make sure that it's true. So we go look for examples in the company. And if we can't find a couple specific examples, isn't something that we say publicly until it becomes true. And then like, I think about entrepreneurs all the time, just like you, right? But like, then as you grow, you have to continue to make sure that the inside is matching the outside, which is so hard sometimes. And that's not, I mean, those are other consultants get hired to do that kind of work.
Yeah, it's so important. Like I think about, people who have I've referred people to, and then it's like you're that person, on the outside it seems like they have a brand where they're caring and they're respectful and all the things, but then you hear back and someone saying, oh, I didn't really have a pleasant experience with that person. And I'm just like, okay, like that sucks for sure. But at the same time, it's like, so I think that kind of illustrates what you're talking about, that whole like, if externally your brand is about like care and, really kind of, building deep connections with people, but then you get on a phone call with someone and they're rude and they're crass and they're just like, like if that's what your brand is on the phone, make sure it matches the outside. So that way you
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
And so one of the things I wanted to ask, so when I ask when I ask people to fill out my form to create come on the podcast, I always ask them for like, what are 3 burning questions that people always ask you? And by far, this is the funniest question I've ever gotten. And so I'm excited to share the question that you mentioned that people ask, because I think it'll be very, very important for our audience. And that question was, how do you know if your brand is good or if it sucks? And like, how do you know when it's time? Like, how do you like? Because I think about like where a lot of people who are listening are sitting, and myself included, right? It's like, okay, I have makings of a brand, right? Like, I have a logo, I have some colors, fonts, whatever. Maybe I have some brand values, I have a vision statement, those kinds of things, right? And maybe I've had somebody do my website, whatever, right? But like, how do you know as you're growing and as you're moving through business, how do you know if your brand is not aligned with what you're putting out there? Or how do you know, I guess more so, which relevant for our audience is like, how do you know when it's time to pivot? Like when you realize that the brand that you've built so far is not the thing that's going to take you to the next level. Like what are some things that people may know, maybe seeing going on in their business that's helping them to understand like, okay, it's time for me to really start to dig into my brand and create a brand strategy?
How do you know if you have a good brand or if your brand sucks? My answer is like, go inward.
Mm.
If you're a solopreneur, go inward. How are you feeling about your marketing? How are your sales? How happy are people who have purchased your service or your product? How do you feel when you're getting ready to create content?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel overwhelmed and crappy and stressed? Do you wonder what to post?
Mm-hmm.
If any of those things are happening, it's possible that your life would get a lot easier and less stressful with a brand strategy.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's pivoting their brand, it means one of two things. They've either grown, meaning they've expanded their staff, or it means that they've outgrown their original branding, which definitely happens.
Mm-hmm.
So grown means you have new communities to include in the rebrand, and outgrown means you've pivoted kind of where you came from and versus where you are now. And in either case, it's a really simple process to figure out what that next brand or that next iteration looks like. You identify the differences between where you were and where you are now. And if there's no differences, you don't need a rebrand. If there is a difference between those two things in either your mission, your ideal client, your values, your promise, the promise of what you deliver, then you adjust the brand. And the other fun thing about this moment in time is that when we do that, we can show our work and it can become part of the content. People sat around fires for centuries listening to someone stand and tell a story. Well, what better story to tell than here's where I started, here's where we are now. What do you think? So it's a win-win in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are definitely great things for people to keep in mind. It's like, if you look at where you're at now and where you're trying to get to, what is the difference? Like, what is that gap, right? Like, and like you were saying, as you're bringing in new people and your audience is growing, right? Like, are those people getting the same experience? Like, are those people still feeling that connection to the brand that people have felt before? And I've had people, who've even come my way to say things like, oh, well, like I pivoted, like the audience that I have now is not matching where I want to go because maybe they were, charging low ticket and now they're trying to charge high ticket and they need to pivot their audience or they need to really kind of get more people into their world that are aligned with their brand, that need what they have, but the current people that they have don't have, are missing something or not a part of that brand.
Yeah.
Like, so I think it's really important for people to understand like that it is an introspective kind of thing and that you do need to kind of take the moment to stop and really figure out like where I'm going. Like if I keep doing the exact same thing that I'm doing now, is that really going to take me to where I go? Like, am I going to wake up and feel disconnected from my brand because it really isn't me? And I also think about like, evolution of people. Like I know that I am someone who evolves constantly, right? Like I'm always, shifting and evolving and, healing and working on, getting better and, being a better leader and all those things. And I think that some of those things also impact a pivot. Would you say that those kinds of things impact a pivot as well?
I want to round the bases of life, knowing better and doing better, just like you. Yeah. And this is year 4 for my business. And I have slightly evolved my brand. Wouldn't it be funny if the brand strategist had no brand? Everyone that comes to me is like so good at what they do. Anyway, I think that moment that you're describing is like a perfect time to talk to previous clients.
Mm-hmm.
To figure out what was it they needed, what was it that they wanted, what's their worldview, what was going on in their life, how do they see themselves? And because humans make decisions based on emotions, Like feelings beat facts every single time. People vote with their money from an emotional place, which is why you're mad when your iWatch doesn't work. Because Apple, the brand, promised like this is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So facts don't matter, emotions matter. No matter what's going on in your business, I just want to reiterate, like unless you're, even if you are a doggy daycare company, you still have to work with human brains.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding the human brains that you want to be in community with, or you want to be of service to, I think is always a good choice. And I don't think people do it enough. I don't think brands do it enough.
Yeah.
They're really, ideal client interviews are really easy. They're really fun. And people will literally just like vomit out exactly what you can say to them
Mm-hmm.
to pull out a chair for others and get them a glass of water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a great point. I think we don't talk to our past clients enough. Like maybe we'll try to get a testimonial or something like that. And that's it. But, doing like as you're evolving your brand, I think it's definitely important to really kind of go back and talk to the people who have invested with you, especially those people who like I know for me, like I've had people who were early investors in what I was doing, right? Like when I was just coming out of corporate, didn't, have, really much going other than this expertise that I've, acquired over the last 13 years. And some of those people, like they can see stuff in me or see things in you that you may not necessarily see. And then, asking them about that and like, why did you decide to move forward with working with me? It can give you some really, really valuable advice. So I think that's really important. So before we round things out, I would love for you to tell us, like, what advice do you have for businesses that are looking to refresh their brand in 2024 after they've kind of listened to our conversation and they're like, yeah, I see that where I'm at now and where I want to go, there is a gap. What kind of advice do you have for those people who are looking to refresh their brand this year?
They have three options. Option one is to go on the internet and Google brand strategy template and pay, $39 for a downloadable PDF and get your team together and fill it out. Have a couple meetings, do a couple iterations. Maybe that's where you're at. Option number two is you've got big bank, you are a big company, and you are ready for a visual and verbal refresh. Then you're going to hire a full brand strategy firm and you're going to get mini muffins in your meetings and they're going to do your ideal client interviews for you. And you're going to issue a press release at the end and it's going to be amazing. Then there's the companies in between where the visual, the colors, the logo, everything visual is really solid. It's just not working when it comes to the messaging. In that case, then you would find somebody like me to help you figure out how to describe the flag you're planting so that people are like, yeah, I want that, like going back to the closet example, like people are like dying to get their hands on your capsule. Like, what is the capsule? Let's figure out how to describe it so that people are just like obsessed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think
Okay.
it's about the advice is really kind of like figuring out like where are you at now?
Yeah.
Where are you trying to get to? And finding the person that can take you there, right? Like, because if you're just starting out and you are really like not making any sales, and you need, some branding and stuff like that, I think, going the route of a template is fine, right? Like, get you something.
Yeah.
But, a lot of the people that listen to this show are in that third area that you were talking about. Like, we're not enterprise level where we're going to get the mini muffins, right? Like, and we're not going to have the company come and fly us out and take us to dinner and all that. Like that's probably not going to happen. Right. But a lot of us are in that third category that you were saying, where it's like, I do need someone to help hold my hand and take me in the right direction, because sometimes it's really, really hard to see the label from the inside of the jar. And at the end of the day, we have to be able to communicate our brand to a lot of different types of people. And so that's why it's important to have a brand strategist like yourself that can help us to look outside of ourselves and look outside of just our vantage point and be able to create a that does embody our gut level essence, and then is able to kind of be able to be communicated. Because if it just lives with us as the CEO and it's not communicated to our team, to our clients, it's not showing up in our visuals, right, then does it really exist, right? Like we
yeah.
those things as much as we want, but at the end of the day, we need to work with an expert that's going to help us to be able to put it out there so that people can consume it. So I would love for you
Yeah.
on how they can work with you, and how to reach out to you, how to connect with you if they want to
That's so kind.
help them with their brand.
That's so kind. I'm definitely not the only brand strategist out there, but if people are interested in the low four-figure solidification of like very clear messaging that will turn heads and open hearts, I would love to help folks. I am at beunderstoodbranding.com. You can follow me on Instagram, beunderstoodbranding. I think that's it, right? Wait, what else? I should have thought about this more.
No, that's perfect. Make sure, like, y'all go to Be Understood Branding, and check out Maggie. But either way, all of that will be in the show notes as well. So if you are
that's so nice.
Brandy, I mean, are you not looking to connect with branding? If you are looking to connect with Maggie about your branding, you can definitely take a look at the show notes, and you'll be able to grab those links. So this has been a great episode, y'all. I hope that y'all got a lot out of it. I know that I've definitely learned a lot for myself, and really kind of have some really introspective thinking to do, because I know that for me, the brand that we've built so far, it is very surrounding me. And I want to eventually get to a place where my brand is not about me. It really is about us as a collective, especially now that we've, added team members, we're growing, right? And we're having more people come into our world. I want to be able to make sure that the brand is not just about me, Stacey, but it is about the collective work that we are doing together. And so I think that there are a lot of people in that place. So I hope that y'all definitely make sure y'all reach out to me, reach out to Maggie, talk to her about how she can help you, because I know definitely she can take you to where you want to go. But that has been this episode, y'all. So if you have found something valuable in this episode, please make sure you share it on your socials. Make sure you tag myself and Maggie. All of our social links will be in the show notes. Or definitely leave us a review. Let me know what was your key takeaway. What is your next step? Where are you feeling like there is a gap between where you're at and where you're trying to go? But yeah, that's what we have for this episode of Roadmap to 1 Million. I will see y'all on the next episode. OMG, that episode was packed with gems. Are you ready for more? Head over to staceyzeal.co/podcast to get the show notes and to sign up to get our top 5 podcast episodes to help you streamline your marketing so you can make this your $1 million year. Head over to staceyzeal.co/podcast.